Hello. Hello, good evening, everybody. Rekha ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and sorry.
It's okay. I was wondering, आज है कि नहीं class?
हाँ, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so good evening, everyone. I think we could have everyone's videos open, please. Can we see you? Unless you don't want to show your face.
Students, please keep the video on for whole lecture. Thank you.
Okay, so last session we did the reading section. That was an introduction to the reading section and the exercises you have to do. So have you done anything? Anyone has been able to do some exercise? Yes, Vinayak?
No, ma'am, I wasn't able to do it.
You forgot or you didn't do
No,
it?
ma'am, I knew it, but I didn't get time from school.
Okay. But you have to practice. If you are going to appear
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
exam in November, then practice is very important. And last moment practice is not going to help. Right?
Yes.
So everyone has to practice continuously, and any homework given, please make sure you have done it. So has nobody done the homework? Saransh?
No, ma'am.
No?
I'll do
Nilanjan?
today.
No, ma'am.
No one's done the homework. I'm very disappointed. See, one thing you should remember is that the homework is not for me, it's for you, right? For your practice. If you don't practice, you won't come up with doubts, and those doubts will never be solved. You will go into the exam with the doubts and get your answers wrong, right? So make sure whatever homework is given, please do it, right? So for now, we have today and we have tomorrow again, we have a class. So at least one exercise of the reading section, that is TR2, which was given for homework, I need completed by tomorrow. It doesn't take much time. How much time does it take to do one session? That is one passage. In your TOEFL exam, you will be getting not more than 15 minutes. So that 15 minutes you have to be able to take out from your busy schedule, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to do anything after that. So getting your scores, now remember that in TOEFL, getting scores which are about between 100 and 110 minimum is required if you're going to apply to any good university. And apart from that, sectional scores are also important. So not less than 25 in any of the sections, right? And not less than 25 means at least a minimum of 25 in every section, which comes up to 100. And the reading and listening sections are those which help you to score well. So when those help you to score well, it means that so when you're talking about the reading and listening section scores, you can easily get 28 and above, right? So that is where your total scores go up. So don't neglect it. It's not just comprehension. You have to be able to analyze your answers and options very well. Okay. So now today we will move on to the listening section. Now, this is a listening comprehension, and just a second. I'll share. Okay, when we're talking about the listening section, what we mean is listening comprehension. You've done reading comprehension, right? Now, what do you mean by listening comprehension? You must have done some listening comprehension in the lower classes in school. Have you? When you
Yes,
had to
ma'am.
listen to a story, answer some questions. Yeah. So this is similar to that. Only that this is you will be listening to now the listening section. You will have about say 5 to 7 audio clips. 5 audio clips if you don't have any of those experimental question sets, and about 7 if you have those extra ones. Yeah. And about 5 to 6 questions for each audio clip that you hear. A total, now you have enough time in this, a total of 41 to 57 minutes. So that comes up to around, say, how much time for each one of them? About 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes for each, or even more. Yeah. Now, when you're talking about the lectures and the conversations, you'll have about 3 to 4 lectures and 2 to 3 conversations. So lectures will be all academic. There will be a topic which will be discussed in the lecture, and your questions that follow will be on the lectures. Now, what is very important in the listening section is that you have to listen and take down notes, because you have no option of going back to the audio clip after it is played, right? So that in whatever information is there in the audio clip, you have to write it down. Now, writing it down, we will go through taking down the notes in details. Now, when we are talking about so this was the basic format. Yeah, you have 3 to 4 lectures, 2 to 3 conversations. Now, the lectures are about 3 to 5 minutes long, mostly 3 to 4, not more than that. And 6 questions per lecture, and about 2 to 3 conversations, about 3 minutes long, and about 5 questions for each conversation. Very short and not very complicated questions if you've got your notes down. Yeah, so the information from the lecture and the conversation you have to take down. Now, when you come to the question format, again, there is multiple choice. Yeah, and you may also get multiple choice where you need to choose 2 answer options. So when you have to choose 2 answer options, you have to be able to get both of them correct. If you don't get both of them correct, then you don't get any points, right? So raw points for each question. Even if it is 2 answer choices, it is still 1 point. Okay, now there will be at least 1 or 2 questions where a part of the conversation or the lecture will be played, a very short part, and there will be a question specific to just that part. So listen to that very carefully when it is replayed, but the rest of it will not be replayed, right? Now, when you come to the question types, the question types will be different. There will be detailed questions. There will be main idea, this question, like what is the main idea of the lecture, or what is the lecture mainly about, or why did the student go to meet the registrar? That way, right? So what was the conversation about? What is the main purpose of the conversation? What is the main purpose of the lecture? And the detailed questions where some specifics will come up. So if you have to get back to your notes in that case and see what is the specific that you have put down and answer the question. Then there could be function questions, that is, what is the purpose of using this word, or what is the purpose of, why did the author say this, those type of questions. Now the attitude or stance questions. Now here what we, that's the tone of the passage or the tone of the conversation, or what did the speaker mean to say when he said this? Yeah. So what is a stance taken, and what are the words stressed, the intonation, all these things have to be taken note of when you are listening. If there is any doubt, say the student says, yeah, but I'm a little, say, doubtful about this because I did submit my form. Yeah. So why was the doubt? Or was he sure that he has submitted the form? Those type of questions can come in. There's the organization questions. So especially in a, say, in a lecture, when there is a shift from one topic to the other. Say a main topic has been discussed and then it goes on to discussing a subtopic. So what is this, what is the lecture move, or what is the shift in focus of the lecture, or shift in focus of the conversation? So those type of things can come up. Then connecting content questions. Here we are talking about connecting pieces of information. Say the, and then based on that you are drawing conclusions. So what can we conclude when the student says this? Or what can we conclude when the lecturer says this? Or when the lecturer brings up this particular information, right? Now, and there could be some inference question, which is straight away inference question based on what the lecture is, or what the conversation is about, or some particular details of the conversation. What would you infer? Those type of questions, right? So as we all know, is basically listening comprehension. So they are testing your listening skills over here. They tested your reading skills in the reading section. Now comes the listening skills. So when you are in a campus situation, or if you are listening to lectures, now remember that from school, when you are moving over to university, you don't have textbooks like it's not that the lecturer is teaching, the professor is teaching, and then you just refer to textbooks and get your notes. Here, you have to be able to listen carefully to the lecture and comprehend what is being said. You have to understand, right? So listening skills are very important. That's where they are measuring whether you are ready for college or not. Are your listening skills good enough? And since you people are all from English medium, so you won't have a problem in this. So your comprehension, your understanding, and your conversation also. The conversation skills, when two people are talking, can you pick up what is being said? That comes in, right? So before we move on to actually doing something, I will just take you through a little bit of. So how are we supposed to go through the listening part? So we'll just take you through a few guidelines. Now, when we talk about listening, what do we mean? When we say taking down notes when you are listening. Anyone? Do you take down every single thing?
No, the piece of information which is relevant and important to the.
So you take down just the important things, right?
Yes, and which is more relevant to the.
Yeah, Abhyuday, your voice is very faint. Can you be a little louder?
Hello, Nana audible?
Yes, a little. That's better.
Yeah, so we take down the information which is important and which is more relevant to the context.
Right. So what is important? What is now? This is something. Now, suppose we are talking about a lecture, which or a conversation you have no prior knowledge about, right? You don't know what the lecture is going to deal with, how it is going to go about the topic. So yeah, now you have to go with the flow of the lecture. Now, when you're going with the flow of the lecture, what happens is you are stressing on something, you're focusing on something that has been said, and by the time the lecture is moving on or the conversation is moving on, so you have to make sure that you don't miss out on anything, right? So there are few things that you have, and apart from just the content, there are few things that you have to take note of while you are listening. So the things that now, first thing is the tone of the speaker. Of course, you will be taking down only the major points. Yeah. Now, when you are taking down notes, make sure that you don't write every single word. We tend to do that, right? We're listening, so we tend to write down the entire sentence. Never ever do that. You don't require entire sentences, because whatever is being asked will be a paraphrase of what has been said, right? So you just need the main points. So the keywords, the questions will come up immediately after the lecture is over. So in your memory, you will have something there. Yeah. Now, when you take down your notes, make sure you take down only the keywords. So when you have the keywords down and maybe the key points, then you can recollect, okay, this was a reference, this was the details regarding this particular point or this particular say data given to you, right? So, and one more thing, the listening strategies are important not only to the listening comprehension section, but very, very important, and I would say crucial, to the speaking and the writing sections also. Because in the speaking section and the writing sections, you will have to depend upon your notes to answer the questions and to write your essay, the integrated essay. Yeah. So you have to practice a lot on taking down notes. Maybe you can just listen to any, say, TED talk or anything, any lecture, academic lecture, and practice taking down notes. Yeah. So initially, maybe you will miss out a lot of points, but you will get used to it. And when you are listening, remember, another thing you remember is that when you are doing your TOEFL exam at the center, there won't be pin drop silence. There will be a commotion around you, right? Because when you walk in, there will already be a few students who are doing their speaking task. Maybe the person next to you is doing his speaking task. So there will be disturbance. So when you are practicing for TOEFL, make sure you are practicing in the midst of commotion. Maybe the TV is on, somebody is talking, all activities are going on. Practice in that atmosphere. So that will help you to focus in spite of all the disturbances, right? Because if you, I've seen students who practice in their study room in pin drop silence, and then when they get to the center, they come back with complaints that there was too much of noise, I couldn't concentrate, right? So always practice in commotion. That's one rule that you have to follow when you are studying for TOEFL. So whether you're doing your reading section, listening section, speaking or writing, make sure there's normal activity at home going on. Okay, so now apart from the major points that you take down, you have to pay attention to the speaker's tone of the voice. So tone of the voice gives you a lot of things. So is the tone sarcastic? Is the tone serious? Is there any doubt? Right? So the is it questionable? Is there or is the student expressing some opinion? Right? So the tone is very important. So take note of the tone when you are listening. and organize your notes a little according to what the lecture, how the lecture goes. Because when the questions come up in the listening section, the questions will be in the same order as the lecture was or the conversation was. It won't be too much of jumbled up. And when you are writing down, you will be able to connect the ideas. So yes, maybe in the lecture questions, it could happen that the why did the lecture go back to answering the student's question. So you should know what the student's question was, right? When it is an interactive lecture. So maybe the question came up in the first half of the lecture, and this particular answer was given in the second half. So the connection between the two things should be there, and there is where your notes come handy. Yeah. Now, when you are listening to, okay, now in the listening section, one thing, you cannot go back to the previous question after you have pressed OK. And unless you press OK, you cannot move on to the next question. So this is what you have to be careful. When you are clicking on the button, make sure you're clicking on the right button, right? Of course, we talked about the experimental section, which is unscored. So maybe you get 7 questions or 7 tracks, but out of the 7 tracks, only 5 will be scored, 2 will not be scored, but you don't know which are not going to be scored. So anyway, for you, all of them are the same, right? And we talked about the replay questions already, where you could, you have to be, there's a particular question which is on a replay of one particular portion, right? Okay, now coming back to taking the notes, as I said, take down the key words as you listen. And this also applies to reading when it comes to the speaking section and the writing section. Because in the speaking section, you will get small, say, notices, flyers, or even an entire article on a particular topic, a short article, but that will not reappear after the lecture or the speaking track is over, right? So taking notes on both the material given to you and what you listen to will be important. Yeah. So as I said, you have to okay, Abudai, when we talk about replay questions, as I said, maybe in the entire lecture or in the conversation, after when the questions come up, maybe the 4th or 5th question is a replay question. That is only they'll say, listen to this track carefully, a portion of the track, and then a question comes up based on that portion only, right? So, another thing you have to, is good that, and one thing you have to remember, follow all the instructions that are being given you during the exam. So if they say, now listen to a conversation in a biology class, so immediately you write down biology. So you know that this is a lecture from a biology class or a history class or a social studies class. Yeah. Or the lecturer is talking about something. The lecturer is responding to something. So everything is important. Now, yes, as I said, you have to take down keywords. So we will practice doing that. And then when you are listening, don't take down entire sentences, just phrases, right? So now we will begin with doing only the practice for the listening tracks, where you don't have to correlate with any other material. When we come to the speaking section, we have to correlate with other material. Now in your listening section, about maximum of 10 minutes, usually around 7 to 8 minutes is given for answering the 5 to 6 questions pertaining to each track. Yeah, so that's a lot of time. You can take your time, go back to your notes and do and analyze. Of course, you will be required to focus on the main ideas. As I said, don't try to write every single thing, only the main thing. So now what are the things that you have to keep in mind when you are talking about academic lectures? Now, this is the portion that is at the end of your books. There is the guidelines. If you go to that, and each time when you have a doubt, go back to the guidelines. That will help you in relating to what we did in class. And maybe you are not doing the chats, or you are not doing the sessions right now, the practice sessions. If you go on to do the practice sessions after 15 days, whatever we said today may not be there fresh in your mind. Yeah. So go back to the guidelines again and then begin afresh when you are practicing. So now when you are talking about academic lectures, what are the things that you have to keep in mind that you have to write down? The purpose of the lecture, right? So what is the professor trying to accomplish? That means, what is the lecture about? What are the main points discussed? Now, now there could be transitions between one topic and the other. So whenever a new topic comes up, remember that it relates to transitions. So suppose it comes up to, now let's talk about something else, right? So suppose the lecturer is talking about elephants. Now it could be the behavior of elephants. Then it could go on to wild elephants. The next subtopic could be domesticated elephants and how they're useful to man. So when we are talking about new topic, it doesn't mean just that a completely new thing comes up, but a different aspect of that topic being discussed comes up. Okay, now the lecturer may be making something clearer. So now it may be that the lecturer says that, okay, now let me explain this in details. So those details are very important. You know that some question will come up on those details. Yeah. Then if there are two different opinions, when we talk about two different opinions, then there's a contrast between, say, there's an opinion, the lecturer would be talking about two different hypotheses. Or maybe in a conversation, the student and the concerned, the second speaker would have a difference of opinion. So why was the difference of opinion? What was the difference of opinion? How was it solved? All those things have to be considered. Now, if you, when there is an interactive lecture, you will know that it's an interactive lecture because there will be a picture coming up. Now, these are not videos. There will be all sound tracks with certain pictures coming up at certain points of time. So in the beginning, if you have a lecturer and some students, you know it is an interactive session. So you have to take notes of the questions or the opinions that are raised by the students also, right? Now, when you are talking about what to write down or what to focus on, right? Now, the topic is important. First thing, the topic of the conversation or lecture. That has to be taken down. Then the key points, when we talk about key points, the reasons and examples also come up. Say it's a lecture and the lecturer is explaining a certain topic, and then the lecturer comes up with examples to explain it. So those examples are important. Then important terminology and phrases. These you are extremely important to take down. So it could be, now all our academic lectures. So these particular terminology and phrases will be the basis of your answers. Yeah, if you don't have the correct terminology down, then maybe you can get your answer wrong. Now, different speakers' opinions, questions, and reactions, right? This is mainly important when you are dealing with conversations. Not only here, not only in the listening comprehension, even more so in the speaking section. So opinions, questions, reactions, these are all extremely important. So you have to take those down. And any solutions or suggestions given. So don't miss out on that. The decisions made, like after the entire conversation, maybe there was something that the student says, okay, I will make sure that I do this. Or it is that you have to take these classes and you can do it in this way. You can take 5 classes in the next semester and 2 in this semester. Then maybe the student responds by saying that, no, I think I will take 3 credits this semester and 3 next semester. So those little details have to be taken down. Now, when we talk about information, lots of information will come in your lectures. Now, it is not always possible to take down each and every piece of information. Some may be the easy ones you will remember. Some you will have to take down. Now, one thing you have to remember is the lectures are not very slow. Neither are the conversations very slow. So you have to be able to practice listening to conversations in, say, the American accent or the British accent, and try to comprehend what they are saying. Right? That will be an important thing to do. So the notes follow organization of the lecture. This is important. Don't take down notes haphazardly. If you take down notes haphazardly, then you may end up with like not being able to find your answer, right? And related ideas within a lecture, or the relationships between the ideas within the lecture, that is important. As I said, there can be an explanation given and then examples given. And then it may lead to another subtopic. So what is a subtopic? Why is it coming up? Those are important. And when you are listening, the expressions and the vocabulary will tell you the type of information. So it is, suppose it is something formal, and you are talking about, say, a lecture based on social studies or economics or business, then different terminologies that are important to take down. Yeah. Okay. Now, another thing that you can keep in mind is, like when you're talking about opinion, how do you know this opinion is being expressed? It's usually, it appears that it may not be that the speaker is saying, in my opinion, I think. Yeah, it is thought that, maybe in a lecture, it is thought that, or the scientists have found that, or hypothesis says that. So that is what is being expressed. Now, when you come to theories or hypotheses, take down the important points relating to those. And inferences are very important. So when you come up with words such as therefore, because, then, so you know that something is being inferred. Now, negatives. This is something that is used to confuse you. So you have to be very careful of those negative words. And some words which are inessential also. So suppose there's a word which is, but this particular say instrument was non-functional during the 80s, or during after the scientific experiment was done, right? Or this particular clause is non-existent in today's world, or maybe this. So all the negative words, negative connotations that come up, you have to be taking note of. Now, fillers, non-essential fillers will come up, which are not really required. Of course, sometimes these may be used to express doubts or uncertainty, right? Now you have another thing, identifying digression. What do you mean by digression? Anyone? So it's something which is differing from the main topic. You are deviating from the main topic of the conversation. So there could be jokes or something not so important to the main lecture. So maybe we don't get a question on that, or it could be that why did the lecturer use this particular thing? Yeah. Or why did the lecturer move away from the main topic? That could be a question. Now, we were talking about connecting ideas, right? How do we know the ideas are being connected? That's the reasons. When you say because, since, one idea is, say, they're talking about the reason for whales not living in the deep waters. So why are they not living in the deep waters? Or why do we not find otters in a particular coastal region nowadays? So now, or they could be the results. Therefore, consequently, all these words, when you come up, so as I said, all the transition words, you have to be able to figure out why they are being used. They could be contrasts or comparisons, analogies. Now, of course, when you have examples coming up, such as, let me explain it with an example. So take note. Okay, this is an example. You don't have to write example full form. And another thing you have to remember, that whenever you are taking down your notes, not that you have to take down the transition words, but you have to know that how the next point is connected to the previous point. That is important to note, right? Now, when you're coming to opposing idea, this is something which usually we miss out on. So on the other hand, however, so when a question comes up, like why did the lecturer not mention this, or why did the lecturer mention this, or how did the lecturer bring about a contrast between the two ideas? So these are the transition words that will give you the clues, right? Now, when there is another idea presented, so one idea is being talked about, or maybe a reason is being given, and then furthermore, moreover, besides, so you know that whenever these words come up, there is something else coming up, some other opinion or some other explanation is going to come up. Now, when there are similar ideas, you know that similarly, that talks about two things, or there's a comparison between two things, right? And restatement of information, that is paraphrasing, comes in other words, that is, so now you have to be able to locate all these terms. When you are able to locate all these terms, you get clarity of, now when you come to the conclusion, in summary, let us sum up. Yeah. Now we can clearly say that, so these come up in the conclusions. Now, another thing very important is when the keywords and phrases are repeated. Yeah, that means something important relating to that is coming up. Now, paraphrasing is something very important. Some information is repeated and it is paraphrased. So you know that same thing is being stated. Maybe some additional points are also being stated along with it, right? Now, paraphrasing is something important when you are answering. That time, paraphrasing is extremely important, especially in the speaking section. Now, if something is said louder and clearer than the others, say in a lecture or in a conversation also, when you are talking to somebody and you state something which is important, you would be saying it louder and clearer, right? You're stressing on something. So you have to take note of that also. What was it that was said more clearly than the other things? And what is being stressed upon? So if something is stressed upon, means it is important. Or a reason being given, most important reason being mentioned. Yeah. And yes, when there are 2 points coming up from one point to another, usually you will find that when they're talking, there could be a pause, right? Or a question is being asked, there could be a pause before that. So you just Now, when you are listening, when you keep these things in mind, it becomes easier for you to comprehend what is being said. That is the main purpose of telling you all these things. Now, the technical words. Okay, and now another thing. In a lecture, pay attention to the words that are written on the board. So there'll be pictures of blackboards and some terms or some topics written. So you know that those are important. You have to take note of those. Or some explanation, some examples relating to those particular topics will come up. So a main topic is being discussed, and in the middle of the lecture, some more blackboards come up with topics written on it. So you know that, okay, these are the subtopics being discussed, or some terminology coming up. So those are important to the lecture, right? And sometimes you have headings or divisions, especially when it is a big lecture, an academic lecture. Those are important. Okay, dates, times, and excuses. Excuses as in conversations. Yeah. Why did the student say this? Even when he hadn't filled the form, or maybe he was not aware that he had to do it. So these excuses can come up. You have to take note of them. And another thing you have to take note of is when you're talking about terminology, that's where another thing is who is the student speaking to. Say we are talking about a conversation, and in the very beginning, in the introduction, it says that when they're giving you the before the conversation begins, they may say, now listen to a conversation between a student and a lecturer, or listen to a conversation between the student and a registrar. So in your question, it may be that who is the student talking to? If you missed out on that, then you will not get your answer. So those are things you have to take note of, right? And of course, when you are taking notes, as I said, don't write full words or full sentences, so never. Don't even write full words. Use a shorthand version of taking notes. So symbols, abbreviations, say just arrows to say up and down, or abbreviations which maybe nobody else understands, only you understand, right? But yes, after you have taken down notes, you should be able to understand what you've written down. That is important, right? If you don't understand what you have written down, then those notes are taking those notes are futile, right? Okay, now, yeah, the blackboards are important. As I said, illustrations and graphics, if they come up, the information in those will be important to the lecture. Yeah, and facts and information you have to be able to take down. Okay. Now, when you're okay, now another thing that to get yourself organized, when we are taking down notes on, say, conversations, usually you have two speakers. So you have speaker A, speaker B. Sorry. So you have the speaker A and speaker B. Maybe one is a student, one is the lecturer or something. So say maybe there's a female speaker and a male speaker when we are talking about conversations as in the speaking section. So make a column, take down the notes accordingly. So maybe a question was asked here, what was the answer given by speaker B? Yeah. So when you organize it this way, it is easier for you to retract information when you are answering the questions. Yeah. So, and all, like I said, don't write full sentences. Yes, the keywords like these will be important. The registrar, dean, assignment, there was a deadline, loans, right? Credits. All these things are words that are important to the conversation, right? So, as I said, you have to take your notes very carefully. Now, why did we spend so much of time in discussing how to take down notes? Apart from the reading section, each of the sections, when you listen to something, that lecture or the conversation is not going to come up again. You have no access to that. So whatever notes you have taken out, that is final. That's all you have to refer to, right? So this is a very important part of TOEFL. If you are not able to take down your notes, you don't have your information, it is very difficult to answer, especially when the speaking and writing section where you are being graded on the information that you are providing, right? So you have to be able to practice very well. Okay, now when you're coming to answering, this is important to note that first thing, when you have to confirm twice that you want to move on to the next question. So there will be, you press the next button, and after pressing the next button, you have to press the OK button. Now, after pressing the next button, you can change your answer. But once you press the OK button to go on to the next question, you cannot do anything with the previous question. Yeah. So whatever you press, make sure you have your right answer. Okay. And even if you are doubtful about any answer, you will not be able to get back. Once done is done. Okay. Okay. Now, when you are talking about the listening scores, this is for you to go through, like just in a nutshell, what we talked about. So taking note skills is very important. Listening skills, you write down the main points. Now, do not write down function words like a, and, etc., etc. Just keywords. Organize your notes. Listen to for signals, tone, etc. Right? So now we will start with. So is it clear that listening skills are extremely important? And when we talk about listening skills, it's not only listening, it also means taking down your notes, right? Okay, now what we'll do is we will get to actually doing something. Okay, so when we are now something like this headphone, now in your notes, first we will go through how your notes are, your guidebook is organized. So maybe you have this sort of a picture coming up. Yeah. When you have this sort of a picture coming up, what does it mean? It's a conversation between a student and somebody in the office or somebody in authority, right? And you'll have 4-5 questions here. So in the beginning, they will tell you, now listen to a conversation between this and this. So you have to listen carefully, take down your notes before you move on to the questions. So, and the questions will not appear while the track is being played. So you don't know what questions will be coming up, right? So that's why listening carefully, taking down your notes is crucial. So once the track is played, then the questions will appear. You will be answering the questions one by one. And when you listen now here, when you're using your material, say you have track 1 over here. Okay. Is the other tracks shared with you? No? Okay. So what I'll do is I will share the link to the tracks, the Google link to the tracks on the WhatsApp group. So everyone has access to it. So you can download from there, save it. So when you say track 1, you will have something like this on. So the UT volume tracks, there will be the listening tracks. So when you say track 1, you can click on track 1 and an MP3 will play for you. Yeah, they're all in the MP3 format. So it will not be a problem for you. Okay, just a moment. I'll first share the sound. So you will have something like this. Now what I will do is I will begin by playing a track for you. So relating to this particular session. And let me know if you can hear clearly.
Listen to a conversation between a student and a registrar.
Hi, I'd like to drop off my graduation form. I understand you need this in order to process my diploma.
Okay, I'll take that. Before you leave, let me check our computer. Looks like you're okay for graduation. And, actually, I'm getting a warning flag on your academic record here.
Really?
Yeah, let's see what's what. Okay, are you familiar with our graduation requirements?
I think so.
Well, then you know you need 48 credits in your major field to graduate and at least 24 credits at the intermediate level or higher. Also, after your second year, you have to meet with your department chair to outline a plan for the rest of your time here. In the past, we also issued letters before a student's final year began to let them know what they needed to take in their final year to be okay. But we don't do that anymore.
I definitely met with my chairperson 2 years ago. He told me that I needed 8 more courses at the intermediate level or higher in the last 2 years to be okay. So I'm not sure what the problem is. I made sure I got those credits.
Unfortunately, the computer's usually pretty reliable. So I'm not sure what's going on here.
It could be that I've taken 2 basic courses but coupled both of them with field experiences.
What do you mean?
Well, I could only take intro courses because there were no intermediate level courses available for those particular topics. My chairperson told me that if I did independent field research in addition to the assigned work in each course, they would count as intermediate level courses. My classmates, some of my classmates did this for an easy way to meet their intermediate course requirement. But I did it to get the kind of depth in those topics I was going for. As it turned out, I really enjoyed the fieldwork. It was a nice supplement to just sitting and listening to lectures.
I'm sure that's true, but the computer's still showing them as basic level courses, despite the fieldwork.
I'm not sure what to do then. I mean, should I cancel my graduation party?
No reason to get worried like that. Just contact your chairperson immediately, okay? Tell him to call me as soon as possible so that we can verify your fieldwork arrangement and certify those credits right away. It's not like there's an actual deadline today or anything, but if more than a few weeks go by, we might have a real problem that would be very difficult to fix in time for you to graduate. In fact, there probably would be nothing we could do.
I'll get on that.
Listen to a conversation between a student and a registrar.
Okay, so did you people get the notes from the conversation? It would be a little difficult first time to get
Yes, ma'am.
all details. But so what are the points that you got down? Let me see. First thing, this is a conversation, so it is easier when you have it in 2 columns, question, answer. So the response to a particular point raised by the student, the student responding to what the registrar said. So this was a conversation between whom? I'll get to the next questions later. So let me see, what have you got down? Yes, Abhyuday?
This is a conversation between student and
I can't hear you clearly.
hello.
Yes?
Yeah, so the conversation is between a student and a registrar.
Yeah.
And student is there for the graduation certificate.
So the graduation form,
Yeah.
right? And there's some
Yes, ma'am.
problem cropped up, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you've got that much. Let me see somebody else getting some other points. Yes, Varshini, what points have you got? Can you continue from where Abhyuday left?
Yeah, ma'am. So once he goes to meet the registrar, she says that there is some
Yes,
problem.
you do one thing. Just read out the points that you have taken down. Only what you have taken down.
There was a warning flag on academics, 48 credits for major, 21 for intermediate.
Yeah.
And then the first year outline plan was not laid out.
Hmm.
8 more courses were required. Only 2 basic credits were scored.
Hmm.
He did only the intro credits.
Hmm.
The intermediate field researches were the ones that he did.
Okay.
And then there were no one. He was asked to contact with the chairperson.
Hmm.
After there
Contact
was
check.
no deadline to meet, but then after a few weeks, that might get into an issue if he doesn't submit properly.
Right. Okay. So Vinayak, do you have any additional points to this?
No,
What is-
ma'am. That much only.
Yeah, that much only.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
computer shows basic.
Anything, anything on his intro course and what he did as field research?
Mm,
Did
No,
you get
ma'am.
anything on that?
No,
No?
ma'am.
Anybody else got? Yes, Nilanjan, did you get anything on that?
No, ma'am.
No? Why did he do it?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did he do the field research?
Because he wanted to go on with his graduation.
Hmm. Any particular point you've taken down on that?
No, ma'am.
Saransh, do you have any details on the field research?
Ma'am, he did too many basic courses but some field experience is also here too.
Okay. So that's all you have got. Okay, more or less you've got the basic points down. Yes, Abudai?
May I add a point to the field?
Hmm.
He did the field research because there were for some courses there weren't any intermediate.
Yeah, he did the field
For
research
some
because
topics.
intro courses were
Yeah.
not available. Intermediate courses were not available,
Yes.
right?
To
And
balance out the
right.
intermediate credit points.
Hmm.
The professor told.
And anything on what was required to be done? That is what the registrar said. Anything on the deadline?
Ma'am, there was no deadline to meet yet, but then if he hasn't got it issue cleared by a few weeks, he would have. There might be a bit
There
problem.
was another important thing that his his fieldwork needs to be verified for credits, right? Okay, now here are your, so more or less you've got your points down. Now the first listening, you've got quite a few points. Let's see if you are able to answer the questions based on what you have got. So here are your questions. First 4 questions. Just answer the first 4 questions first. Okay, first 4 questions, I think not too complicated. Let me know when you are done with them.
Done, ma'am.
Done? Everyone done? Varshini? Done with first 4?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. So they weren't too difficult, I believe. Yeah, you got your answers. Let's see. Number one. What's the answer to number one? Who'll give me? Saransh? Answer to question number one? Yes, Saransh, you can unmute yourself.
Option B.
Option B. Are you sure you have B? Okay, let's see. Anyone else with any other answer?
I did D.
I
You
did.
did. Okay. So Abuday, what's your answer? Can't hear you clearly, Abuday. Option D?
A.
A.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, now in your notes, look back to your notes and see why did he go to the, what was the first thing he said? I have come to, okay, I'll do one thing. I'll replay the track.
Hi, I'd like to drop off my graduation form. I understand you need this in order to process my diploma.
Right? So that was the first thing he said. I come to drop off my graduation form. So what's the answer then? It's D, right?
D.
Submit a document required for graduation. It's not why he is not listed. That the question was raised not by the student but by the registrar. Yeah, to explain why he has not filled his graduation requirements that he didn't come up with. So your main question was, why was he there? Right? So to drop off his form. Okay, question number 2. According to this, what step is currently taken? So it is currently taken to ensure the students fill the graduation requirements. So what
Ma'am, I wasn't sure about this, but I did B.
you did B. Okay. Anybody else over there? B?
Yes.
Okay. Varshini?
B, ma'am.
B. Anybody with a different answer? Saransh?
B.
B. Okay, yes. So the students meet with the department chairperson to plan their coursework. That is correct. Because they didn't say that, of course, academic records are regularly checked by the registrar's office. It is not by the registrar's office exactly. Students receive letters using listing courses. That is not what is currently taken. Earlier, they used to receive. Yeah, so that is also eliminated. And warning letters are given is like when that is later part of the conversation. Okay, why does the man mention his classmate? What's the answer to this? Number 3.
I did B, but again, not sure.
B. B or D?
B.
B, okay. So what about the rest of you? Yes, Varshini?
Ma'am, I'm not sure, but I got A.
You got A, okay. Saransh?
A.
A. Abuday? Not sure? A or B or D? A, okay. Nilanjan?
A.
A. Okay. So now this is, why does the man mention his classmates? This is a detailed question, a very small detail which you could have missed out on. Now, if you look back to your notes, do you have anything about why he did the field work? One
No,
was
ma'am.
because
I didn't write.
intermediate courses were not available. And that's why I asked everyone, did you write anything else on this? This is a very crucial detail, but when you are listening to the conversation, it may seem it is not very important, right? So when he says, I enjoyed the field work, right? What I have written down is that the field work, the classmates did it because they went the easy way. But he says that I did it because I enjoyed the field work and went into depth of the topics. Yeah, when you have quite a lot spoken about a particular point, that you should know that that point is important. Some question will come up on that, right? Because there are 2 to 3 things said about that particular thing about on field work, right? So now here to explain how he obtained information about field research, that doesn't come in. He just said that I took up field work because that was available in place of the intermediate courses. And to point out that many students like to do field work, that's not really what he is saying. He's saying that other students do this, but I went into the depth of it. So now to show the difficulty, of course, is not an answer. To emphasize his motivation to do field research in 2 of his courses. That is that he is emphasizing why he did the field research. So there are two reasons. One, intermediate courses were not available, and so he went into do field research. And second, he enjoyed the field work and went into depth. So these are the 2 things that he is emphasizing, right? So remember that when something is being said and it is not just one particular point, it is explained, take note of what is being said. Okay, now why does the registrar tell the man to contact his chairperson immediately? What was the answer to this?
B. B.
B? Okay. Everyone says B? Nilanjan? Come up with your answers quick. I don't have to
B1.
everyone and ask. Yes, Nilanjan?
Ma'am, B.
B. Anybody else with any other answer or any doubt on this? No? Everyone think it's B? Yes, B is the correct answer because it wasn't that deadline had passed was not the answer. The man first needs to find out if the chairperson will help him. That is not there. In issuing a new grade may take longer. That is also not. That is later on. We may not be able to issue a new grade. That was there. So he has to call the registrar immediately so that because he has limited time, right? Okay, now we have, this is what we call the replay question. A part of the conversation will be played again for you and the question will come up. So I'll just first play the part of the conversation. So when you are following your material, you have the track numbers given with the headphone icon. So you know this particular track. Now you go to your track list and you can play that particular track. So we have track 2 here.
Listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question.
I'm not sure what the problem is. I made sure I got those credits.
Unfortunately, the computer's usually pretty reliable, so I'm not sure what's going on here.
What does the registrar imply when she says this?
Unfortunately, the computer's usually pretty reliable, so I'm not sure what's going on here.
Listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the problem is. I made sure.
Yeah, got it? So this is relating to a part of the conversation and pinpointed to a particular section. Why did the registrar say this? Now here, if you see, the question is in the track itself, right? Question will not come up on your screen, but the question is in the track itself and the options will come up over here. So you have to be able to listen to the question from the track, right? So what was the question?
What did she mean by when she said about the reliability of the computer?
So now if you see, did you note the tone of the conversation at that point?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was like doubtful.
Doubtful, but it was like, but my computers are reliable, right? So it was like, there's nothing wrong with the computers. Maybe you didn't submit the form properly. Okay, so what would the answer be over here?
A.
It could be a little
A, I
confusing.
guess.
Read through all of them and see why does she say that?
Option C.
Option C. So somebody got A, somebody got C. Anybody else with any other answer? No?
Option C.
Okay, so now she does say that she's uncertain about the reliability. Now, is she uncertain about the reliability of the computer? Does she seem uncertain? She says the computers are pretty reliable. So according to her, the computers are reliable. So we wouldn't say that she's uncertain about the reliability. Now it talks about reliability, but the key word here is uncertain. So that's eliminated. And the main point is she needs more information about the man's schedule. That's what the entire conversation was about, right? So C here is your answer. All right. So now when you did this, what was the main problem you faced in taking down the notes? Let me see. I'll go individually. Varshini?
Yes, ma'am.
So did you face any problem in taking down the notes?
No.
Were you able to take down all important information?
Everything that I required for this, yes.
So did you get all your answers based on the information you took down?
Yeah.
Did you get any answer wrong?
I wasn't sure about the third question, but then it was one of my options, but then I chose the wrong one.
Yeah. So why do you think you didn't get why were you doubtful about the answer to the first question? Did you have your notes down clearly?
I didn't note down the point properly for that one.
Right. So a point missing.
Yeah.
So next time when you take down your notes, you know that, okay, the important points, like maybe for you, it may not be important, but if something is stated in or explained in detail, that is important, you need to take down. Yeah. So it will happen when you have a conversation or lecture and so many things going on and you're taking down the notes, something would be missed out on. But as far as possible, we have to make sure that we get down all important information. Right? Okay, Vinayak, what problem did you face?
Ma'am, initially I wrote all the points clearly, but then I focused on understanding what he's saying. So I wasn't able to, sync with it while writing.
So basically, that means that what was important or the keywords you did not get down.
Yeah,
right?
in the middle part of the clip.
Middle part, you missed out on information. So you have to be, so this will come with practice. As you keep practicing taking notes, your understanding and your skills of taking the notes will increase. So this was the first time you did it. You missed out on something, most of it you got, but that's where your practice comes in, right? The more you practice at random, just listen to something. Whenever you're listening to something, try taking down notes and see if you've got everything down. It need not be only the tracks that are available with the sessions. It could be just random things, right?
Right. Yes.
And specifically when it is in the Native American or Native UK accent, right? Try to listen to those and take down notes, maybe clippings of lectures. They need not be entire lectures, just maybe half of it. Take down your notes and then go back to the lecture again and see, did you get all the information or not, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Saransh, what was your problem?
Yes, ma'am. I missed a few of important points.
Hmm. So you missed a few of the important points. So what will you do next?
Listen to more of the clips, audio
Yeah,
clips.
listen to the clips, take down notes, keep practicing, and keep the what is required. Go back to the guidelines again, read through it, and see what are the things that are required. Yeah, that will help you to take down the notes properly. Okay, Abu there?
Ma'am, everything was
Yeah,
very
can you get your mic a little closer?
hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, somewhat.
Hello.
Yeah, you're audible now.
Yeah. So 95% of the information I got,
Hmm.
but at the last part of the conversation, I found the speed little bit fast, and I started going through my notes, so I missed the last part of the.
Okay. So you have to focus a little more.
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, we need, whenever you are listening and taking down notes, we need to keep our focus till the end.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not that half of it we took down and then we remember, okay, I did take down this or missed out on that. Don't do that. Keep your focus on just taking down the notes till the end. You
Okay.
will obviously miss out on something. That's not a problem. Maybe you remember a few things you don't remember, but yes, you can get to your answers. Right? Okay, Nilanjan, anything from you?
The speed was too fast for me. I noted some of the key points,
Hmm.
but I missed also.
Yeah. So now you can do one thing. I will share the tracks and you can go back to the same track again and see who did you miss out on,
Yeah,
right?
ma'am.
And main
Sure.
thing here, that's why I was emphasizing continuously, main thing is practice. The more you practice, the better you get it. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
okay,
ma'am.
now we have just about 5 minutes. We can listen to another track. Okay, now something of this will come up. When I talked about blackboards coming up, now we have placed all the blackboards on the same page, but when you are listening to or when you are doing an actual test, all of them will come up in different stages of the lecture. Now, if you see, this is a lecture and the students are there, so you know it is an interactive lecture. And the topic is biology. Yeah. And when the other blackboards come up, something like some terms come up, say ultrasound, echolocation, sound pulses, right? So now if you listen to the lecture, this is track number 3. So everyone have your headphones on. You'll always get headphones when you are in the exam. So that won't.
Listen to part.
So get your headphones on, pencils in hand. Everyone ready? Focused? Yeah? Okay.
Part of a lecture in a biology class.
So that's how elephants use infrasound. Now let's talk about the other end of the acoustical spectrum, sound that's too high for humans to hear, ultrasound. Ultrasound is used by many animals that detect, and some of them send out, very high-frequency sounds. So what's a good example? Yes, Carol?
Well, bats. Since they're all blind, bats have to use sound for, to keep from flying into things.
That's echolocation. Echolocation is pretty self-explanatory, using echoes, reflected sound waves, to locate things. As Carol said, bats use it for navigation and orientation. And what else? Mike?
Well, finding food is always important. And I guess not becoming food for other animals.
Right, on both counts. Avoiding other predators and locating prey, typically insects that fly around at night. Now, before I go on, let me just respond to something Carol was saying. This idea that bats are blind. Actually, there are some species of bats, the ones that don't use echolocation, that do rely on their vision for navigation. But it is true that for many bats, their vision is too weak to count on. Okay, so quick summary of how echolocation works. The bat emits these ultrasonic pulses, very high-pitched sound waves that we can't hear. And then they analyze the echoes, how the waves bounce back. Here, let me finish this diagram I started before class. So the bat sends out these pulses, very focused bursts of sound, and echoes bounce back. You know, I don't think I need to draw on the echoes. Your reading assignment for the next class, it has a diagram that shows this very clearly. So anyway, as I was saying, by analyzing these echoes, the bat can determine, say, if there's a wall in a cave that it needs to avoid, and how far away it is. Another thing it uses ultrasound to detect is the size and shape of objects. For example, one echo they'd quickly identify is the one they associate with a moth, which is common prey for a bat, particularly a moth beating its wings. However, moths happen to have a major advantage over most other insects. They can detect ultrasound. This means that when a bat approaches, the moth can detect the bat's presence, so it has time to escape to safety, or else they can just remain motionless, since when they stop beating their wings, they'd be much harder for the bat to distinguish from, a leaf or some other object. Now, we've tended to underestimate just how sophisticated the abilities of animals that use ultrasound are. In fact, we kind of assumed that they were filtering a lot out, the way a sophisticated radar system can ignore echoes from stationary objects on the ground. Radar does this to remove ground clutter, information about hills or buildings that it doesn't need. But bats, we thought they were filtering out this kind of information because they simply couldn't analyze it. But it looks as if we were wrong. Recently, there was this experiment with trees and a specific species of bats, a bat called the lesser spear-nosed bat. Now, a tree should be a huge acoustical challenge for a bat, right? I mean, it's got all kinds of surfaces with different shapes and angles. So, well, the echoes from a tree are going to be a mass of chaotic acoustic reflections, right? Not like the echo from a moth. So we thought for a long time that bats stopped their evaluation at simply, that's a tree. Yet it turns out that bats, or at least this particular species, can not only tell that it's a tree, but can also distinguish between, say, a pine tree and a deciduous tree, like a maple or an oak tree, just by their leaves. And when I say leaves, I mean pine needles, too. Any ideas on how it would know that?
Well, like with the moth, could it be their shape?
You're on the right track. It's actually the echo off all the leaves as a whole that matters. Now, think. A pine tree with all those little densely packed needles, those produce a large number of faint reflections in what's called a smooth echo. The waveform is very even. But an oak, which has fewer but bigger leaves with stronger reflections, produces a jagged waveform, or what we call a rough echo. And these bats can distinguish between the two, and not just with trees, but with any echo that comes in a smooth or rough shape.
Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Okay, so that was the lecture. Quite long, lots of information. Complicated? Yeah? Not complicated? So it moved from one...
Not really.
Yeah, not very clear. Maybe you couldn't take down all the points, right? So, but still we will try to answer the questions based on whatever you've taken down, right? So there are about 6 questions. Just first 5 you can answer. First one says, what is the lecture mainly about? So It says mainly about, right? So what was it mainly about? How
A.
animals emit ultrasonic sounds. Was it about all animals? Or
B.
mainly about bats?
B.
B, right? It was mainly
Yes.
about bats. Was it about comparison of echolocation and radar? That was one particular point. Now here, when you're talking about mainly about, we have to get to the main point of the entire lecture, not any specific. Okay, why does a professor decide not to add more information to the diagram of the board? This was something we thought maybe was not very important, but there's a question. Anyone got
She
this?
wants students to complete the diagram as an assignment.
It has already been given as an assignment.
Yes. The professor said that this will be an assignment
Not
for
really.
you guys to complete the.
She doesn't talk about completing the diagram themselves as assignment. It is rather that it is already given in the textbooks.
Yeah, D, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it is given in the textbooks and they do have an assignment, of course. So main thing was it is already given. So that's why she didn't want to, she said it, she doesn't need to draw it. Okay, coming to number 3, here you see there, choose 2 answers. Now here we, in the print, we don't have the ovals or something, but you have to be able to choose 2. So whenever you have 2 answers in your test or in the online version, usually the others will be in circles. These will be either in boxes or ovals, right? So even if you, but don't miss out on this. So according to the professor, what are 2 ways in which a moth might react when it detects the presence of a bat? So I think that is pretty easy. 2 ways in which the moth might react.
I think A and B.
Stops beating wings. Yes, it was there. And emit high frequency sounds or leave the area. What was it? Leave the area. The moth doesn't emit high frequency sounds. It would either leave the area or stop beating its wings to not get detected. Right? Okay, number 4. What surprising information did the recent experiment reveal about lesser spear-nosed bats? This was towards the end of it, right? So anybody with the answer?
Yeah, they filter out echoes from some types of trees.
Filter
Like
out.
they can
Anything
analyze between pine tree and an oak tree, because pine tree emits smooth echo sounds, whereas oak trees emit jagged waveforms.
So
means a rough echoes.
they can analyze all of them. Right? So what will your answer be? B. Now they filter out echoes from some types of trees is also there, but they can analyze echoes from stationary objects with complex surfaces. This is a complete answer and a better answer. So you will go with B. Okay, number 5. What's your answer to number 5? According to the professor, why does a pine tree produce smooth echo?
C.
C.
See, it has small, densely packed needles. That's why it has a smooth echo. Large branches, pines don't have large branches. Smooth trunk, no. It remains stationary, no. So C is the only answer. Okay, now coming to number 4, we'll just take 2 more minutes. I'll just play track number. This is track number 4.
Listen again to part of the lecture, then answer the question.
Now, before I go on, let me just respond to something Carol was saying. This idea that bats are blind.
Why does the professor say this?
Now, before I go on, let me just respond to something Carol was saying.
Listen again to part of the lecture, then answer the question.
Now, before I go on, let me just respond to something Carol was saying.
Okay, so you got that? Why does the professor say that? So respond to something.
This idea that bats are blind.
Why does the professor say?
Yeah. So Carol had raised some question.
B.
To correct a statement? Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't just to answer, but to correct it. It wasn't
Yes,
to
we do.
praise. It wasn't to give an example, just to correct the statement. So you got all the questions right? More or less?
I didn't get the second one.
Yes,
Second one got.
Yeah. Okay. So now you know that how important taking down notes is. Questions may be easy, you will get to the answers, but provided you have your information. Right? So what will you do now? You will practice TL2 and TL3. Now TL2 you see is another lecture. And there are different types of questions, events in order. Okay, the organization question is also there, so you can try it out. And TL4, when you come to TL4, you see it's a conversation again, right? So these two you will be doing on your own. Yeah. Try doing it today. Doesn't take much time. Okay. Right. So that's it for today. And yeah, if there is any doubt, last time also I had mentioned our TOEFL lectures will be all of 1.5 hours, not 2 hours, right? So from now, unless you practice, you will not come up with your doubts. So please do practice, yeah? And whatever strategies you are falling back on, or you are not able to take down your notes, anything comes up, we'll discuss. Okay. So any questions as of today? No?
No,
No,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, Abude, you had any question?
No.
No, okay. So you will be following the strategies, practicing, that is the main thing. Okay. Okay, then that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow again, same time, right? And try to do the listening part first. So you get a little more practice on listening before we move on to speaking. So listening, this was just one lecture to get you into the strategy. Practice is your work, right? We'll be doing more extra practice later on, but whatever is there in your volume, and I will share the tracks right away on the WhatsApp group, so you will have no problem on this. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Pushpata ma'am.